Hello everyone, welcome back to Planet Coaster and welcome back to the Wicker Man Recreation. Today we're going to be moving on to the Deer Wall Turn area and also parts of the entrance plaza, including the actual entrance itself. So we are just starting right off with this cattle pen parts of the queue line inside the Deer Wall Turn. Now this is the first part of the queue line where you enter it. If you're queuing from here, I think it's normally about an hour, but yeah, this is basically the first thing you see. You have Big Bob just right off there to the left, and he's staring up in the sky and you see the train come around you. It's such a good part of the queue line because you've entered the ride now, and the ride was designed to intimidate you and to make you feel uncomfortable, and this is part of the queue that really does make you feel uncomfortable, not because of the music or the theming, but actually because the train swoops around you, and it actually does come quite close to the queue line when it goes low to the ground, but yeah, it swoops around you around that turn and back through Big Bob into the main part of the circuit, or as Coaster Studios likes to call it, he likes to call it the Beehive for some reason. But yeah, that it is the first part of the queue line. Of course, I have been doing some theming. There's going to be a lot of stuff in this episode that I've done off camera, mainly because most of this was just placing down fences and searching through the menu for scenery items really, so there's going to be a lot of footage missing, and because of that it is going to be a rather short episode. Here I'm starting to do what I think has been one of the hardest parts of the recreation so far. Big Bob, making him, it was quite difficult to make Big Bob, but I feel like this has been one of the hardest parts because I don't often do terrain work. I'm not really a terrain person when it comes to Planet Coaster. I will do some terrain work, but not complex terrain work like this. And for those of you who know, when you go through the queue line, off to the left there's like a service road, and the service road goes into this pit part that holds like some sort of maintenance shed. I assume it's the maintenance shed for Big Bob, controlling the effects on him and all that. I assume it's that. But yeah, it basically splits off from the queue line and goes down underneath the track, and I found it so hard to do the terrain for that. I remember I edited it a good few times, but it was really quite difficult to do. So yeah, here you'll see me doing more of the fencing, and this is what most of it was this week really, which is why there's a lot of footage missing. It is basically just this fencing really. But yeah, so for these fence pieces I am using the ladder parts once again. I feel like those are probably the only parts in the game that actually look like the fences in real life for Wicker Man, but unfortunately you can't change the colour on those ladder pieces, which is quite a downside to it. Once again, this part, it was so difficult. This was the first time I'm doing this fast track queue line, and I think I edited it about 10 or so times to get it where it is now, and I'm still not happy with it. And because the pathing tool and the terrain tool is really good, but when it comes to stuff like this, it's really quite annoying, and especially the path tool. The path tool is worse, Jesus. But yeah, I found it really hard to do this part. I know in real life the fast track queue line is directly next to the main path. It's like a bit lower down, but it is still directly next to it. But here on Planet Coaster, as you'll probably see later on in the episode, I have had to make it like spaced there because the terrain and paths, and it's just hard to do those things in Planet Coaster, and I really just couldn't do it. I tried to make it like that, but it just was not working out. So yeah, and you might see now, I think I did realise this when I turned the camera around, but that fence looks really bland and repetitive, so I am going to do something off camera to fix that, maybe turn some of the ladders around, make them at different heights. But yeah, that, like, on the side of the fast track queue line, it looks so right, but yeah, you just saw that on the side of the track, it looks so bland and terrible, doesn't it? So yeah, I am going to go back into the game later this week and redo that. Of course, more terrain work, and Wicker Man has definitely been the hardest recreation I've done so far out of the two. I did Stealth and Saw, but those didn't really have a lot of terrain to them because it's Fort Park, and Fort Park doesn't really have terrain. But when it comes to Alton Towers has so much terrain, and I find it really difficult to do, especially for Wicker Man, because Wicker Man has been terrained so weirdly. Like with the Smiler's alright, it's just in a pit really, but with Wicker Man it's all the different terrains because it used to be the flume, and it's in the area of the massive body of water that the flume had, and they had to fill that all out, and the terrain is quite odd with Wicker Man, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't really take anything away from the ride, it just makes it harder for me to build in Planet Coaster, really. That's all it does. But yeah. And because of that, Wicker Man is actually close to the queue line. Not close to the queue line, close to the ground at most parts of the ride. If you've been there in real life, you would actually see, it's quite close to the ground basically all the time, and it's not a bad thing really, as long as the terrain changes height decently. The coaster will too. It's not that it's like a flat coaster all the way through, it's nothing like that. Here you see me do these paths. Now I'm doing these because there's no supports there, because that's where the road goes underneath the track, and of course they have that iron bar to add more support above it, if you get what I mean. But unfortunately, once again, Planet Coaster just lacks the tools to do something like that. So I thought, oh yeah, just go into the coaster editor and turn off supports for that part of the track. But little did I know, if you remove the supports on that part of the track, it also removes the catwalks. And I need those catwalks, because that's what wooden coasters have, they have the catwalks. But it does annoy me sometimes the way Frontier have done this sort of stuff, and nothing in the game annoys me more than how they did the dive coaster. For starters, the holding brake is at a way too steep angle, and also it holds the train down way too far. I don't know, the dive coaster just pisses me off so much. I barely use it. When I do use it, I still don't like it, because of the way they done the holding brake. The way they did the holding brake in RCT3, oh yeah, that was lovely. Why couldn't they just stick with that? But yeah, there is a lot of things that do annoy me in Planet Coaster, and that's one of them. But yeah, here you're seeing one of the many examples as to why Frontier really need to redo the path system, because it's just annoyingly bad and fiddly, and it's just awful to work with. I'm actually going to go as far as to say I prefer the path tool from RCT3. Yeah, it was gridded, but at least it worked. I would love to see a path tool where you could just outline it and paint it in or something like that. That would be amazing, and it'll just make life so much easier. But the path tool is one of the worst parts of Planet Coaster. So yeah, here you'll see me do these concrete wall pieces, and these are really awkward to do, because in real life the service road goes down, and it has this concrete wall alongside it, and then on top of that concrete wall is where the terrain ends for that cattle pen in the deer wall turn, and you can't really do that in Planet Coaster where the terrain just ends. And it is quite annoying that you can't do that. It's generally a necessary tool that I think should be in the game. You know, even when you try to use paths to do it, because paths make it somewhat easier, but you still can't really do it that well. So yes, I think at that point I gave up on it. I don't know, I'm still doing it apparently. But yeah, and you know, it's quite annoying, and you know, I genuinely feel like Frontier need to do improvements to both the terrain tool and the path tool, because nothing, and I mean nothing, has pissed me off more during this entire recreation than the paths and the terrain, because they are just so complex, especially the terrain of Wicker Man. It's really weird, and you know, it doesn't look like it on camera, but Wicker Man, of course, with all the other Alton Towers coasters, is in a pit because of height restrictions. But yeah, it generally does just make me wish that Frontier just added some sort of tool like that where you could just make it so the terrain ends as if it's just a cliff. I really would like to see that in the game. But yeah, so here you're actually seeing me start the entrance sign. Now I wasn't really too sure on how I would go about doing this, because it's quite weird how it's been done in real life, because it's not something like the Smiler where you just enter it and that's the queue line. When you go underneath these arches, are they called arches? Then it's not an arch. And the sign, let's just call it the sign. There's the fast track queue to one side, there's the main queue right in front of you, and then the extended queue line to the right of you, and it's like a junction basically. It's like a junction. That's basically what it is. But yeah, here you're seeing me actually start the sign itself. Wasn't really too sure how I would go about doing this, so what I've actually done, I actually had a look at how other people have done this entrance sign, because I know there have been quite a selection of people that have recreated Wicker Man Planet Coaster, like Alton Coasters. He's done Wicker Man, and I actually quite like his Wicker Man Recreation. But yeah, so I had a look at how some other people did it. Of course, using the scarecrow pieces once again just to do this queue line, entrance sign. And I was thinking about trying to do the text, because of course it does have like Wicker Man over the top of this logo. But I don't think there's any piece in Planet Coaster to actually do that. So yeah, we are coming up to the end of the episode now, so I'm going to sign off. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want frequent updates on Planet Coaster, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Loakin_. But until then, I'll see you all very soon. Goodbye.